We're home.
Lucy, we're home. Our demographic will get that.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Waiting for Coach Bronson. No, they're not. I'm on. We're live.
We're live.
Karen's on. All right. Oh, guys. We kind of like last night, we're like, oh, crap, we have a video to do tomorrow.
No, we knew we did.
Well, but it didn't really hit us. I didn't think about it till we woke up yesterday after we got in at 5:30 in the morning.
So we took a red eye home from Seattle, and it was like a 5-hour or more flight. And it was overnight. So we got on the plane at like 9:15 Seattle time.
And it didn't leave. It left like 30 minutes late. It was supposed to leave at 9:50. It was almost 10:30 before it left.
Oh, I didn't even realize it was that late.
We didn't board. We didn't actually. Yeah, it was like 10 after when they were like the last people were coming on.
It was
a late flight, later flight.
Like 1 a.m. for us, East Coast time.
Yeah. And
then we got in at 6:30 Eastern, so it was like 3:30 Pacific.
Right, but we would also had been on whatever is past Pacific, right? Because we were 4 hours back for most of the trip.
We were Alaska time for most of the trip.
Yeah.
So it was 4 hours behind, yeah. So
4 hour jet lag, red eye. Getting in at 6 o'clock in the morning.
All the things.
I was thinking that when we got in that I probably would just be up.
Yeah, he was like, I don't know if I'm going to fall asleep.
Because I felt, it was weird. I felt tired.
You're going to fall asleep.
But it was also literally, we landed, I pulled the window thing up and it was like, good morning. The sun was coming up and all that. So I thought I would just be up, but nope. I crashed out till about 12 something.
We both did. Yeah, about 4.5 hours.
So we got about 4.5 hours of sleep and then started the rest of our day. Kind of got back on schedule. We actually did something.
We should have grabbed a bag of Keto Brains.
I want to grab it. Yeah, but I'll grab it. We had something come in while we were gone.
We had a package. Well, we had lots of packages waiting.
We had a lot of packages. But this was the one that we were looking forward to the mostest.
The mostest.
Hostess with the mostest.
Especially after our red eye.
Because this stuff, guys, get some. Use our code Keto Rehab, get 20% off.
So important.
They don't do that for anybody else, just us because we're special, because you guys are special.
Special because you're special.
Keto Brains Nootropic. Let's see, we got Alpha GPC, Lion's Mane, L-theanine, and MCT. It is fantastic in your coffee.
So tasty too.
It's tasty, and taking this yesterday with our coffee after, like, you know how you wake up and you're just like, did I even sleep? Now, not only did we only have 4 hours, all the jet lag and everything else, but then coming out of that and waking up and trying to be like, we got to get through the rest of the day.
Do some things.
That stuff was a lifesaver.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I agree.
I was actually able to get work done. Like it wasn't like sitting at the screen just being like, I can't even think. You know when you get so tired and you're just kind of in that, like, you're looking at everything on the screen and you're like, I know I just read that, but I don't remember what I just read. Like, I got to read that over again. Yeah.
Brain work.
Didn't have any of that yesterday. I was able to actually just do what I wanted to do and get things done. So, fantastic, guys. As we're going to start doing every week, if you are on the live at the end of the stream, we're streamers. At the end of the stream, the live stream, whatever you want to call it, and you have questions. So at the end of the video, we'll ask if anyone has any questions or thoughts or comments. If you do comment throughout the video and at the end and you're still here, we will pick your name out of a virtual hat and you can get yourself a bag of this. Keto Brains has generously offered to give a viewer a bag every week.
Every week.
That's awesome.
So show up, ask questions, interact in the chat, and you might be the winner. Juliana ordered herself some with our code.
Fantastic.
She took my Keto Brains to IHOP this morning.
Nice.
I have to say, I have been in the habit of using a lot of Nut Pods, non-dairy, unsweetened coffee creamer in my coffee for the flavor of it, because he can handle really strong coffee. I either use flavored coffee, or if I'm using regular coffee, which we've been doing lately, I'm adding a lot of flavored creamer. I have been able to cut that in half using Keto Brains. It is so good.
Well,
it's got a coconutty, so it's a coconut cream or coconut
I was just going to ask,
based.
yeah, because Danny just asked, what's the, like, does it come in different flavors? It's like an MCT.
It's kind of like a vanilla
little
coconut
coconutty,
flavor.
yeah. It's not a super strong
But they don't
flavor.
add flavorings, which is nice also. Right. If you're a person, especially if you're a person who can't handle natural flavors and the additives that come in those, it's cleaner. It doesn't have all that. So I'm happy that and I'm trying to cut back on the nut pods, because it is a blend of almonds and coconut. And the almonds have the extra oxalates, and I know that I don't handle oxalates well. So for me, I want to cut back on that. This is a perfect substitute.
It's fantastic.
And it adds all of the brain benefits.
You feel like it adds a little creaminess.
Yes, it's super creamy, and it blends really well. If you don't have, we just got a high-powered frother.
Oh my gosh, guys. Total side note. I don't even know what company it is. It probably doesn't matter, but we brought a frother on the cruise.
Yep.
And the batteries died. And then we got new batteries, which we thought were good, but I don't know.
Then the whole thing died.
But then the whole thing just stopped working.
It just stopped working.
So I was like, screw this. We're buying a rechargeable frother.
And you purchased it for that reason, to recharge.
To recharge. Just so we're
But it is like a turbo.
It is 3 times as powerful
so
as
strong.
the regular battery-powered frother. And it came with replacement stem. And each they have a double whisker.
They have a double
whisker on it as well. Guys, it's freaking amazing.
It's awesome. You found it on Amazon, right?
It was, and it's a little longer stem too.
Yeah.
It's a little taller, so it actually gets to the bottom. Yeah, it's.
And that was the other thing with the other frother we had. Even if you put it all the way down to the bottom of your mug,
you couldn't, because it's not long.
It wouldn't work.
Right. It wasn't strong enough to.
Yeah. Too weak.
And this one, actually, I noticed if you put the further down you put it, the more it makes the stuff like.
Careful.
You actually have to keep it a little higher, because it. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to talk about a very kind of a broad topic. Wait, is there anything else we need to bring up or talk about first before we get into that?
We got to make a little announcements. I got something big coming up.
Okay.
Pause for the 12-year-old.
You have something important happening.
Yes.
So something exciting.
We have determined that there are
coming
terms.
soon.
This is adding to the list of things
we have a list of words that Natalie is not allowed to say anymore.
Can't use certain words. And Natalie, yes, she said, I was going to ask if you use a frother. Can you send the Amazon link? Yes, I will add. Actually, I'll figure out which one. We'll find out specifically which one he purchased, and I'll add it to my Amazon storefront. So for those who are not aware, I have an Amazon storefront for Keto Bikini recommendations.
Somebody's asking for the frother link.
I literally just said that. You were looking down.
I'm telling them. They're asking on here too.
That's where I read it.
Oh,
I read it from there. Focus. Drink more Keto Brains. Be here with me. Y'all, 80 is real. For those who didn't know, this man is easily diagnosable.
This is what was it? Not diagnosed, but pretty sure.
We saw a T-shirt. It was a T-shirt, right?
It was.
Not diagnosed, but pretty sure. Subclinical.
So, okay. You all just having a little insight into Coach Natalie.
This is what my life is like.
My apologies. Continue, my dear.
So, I have an Amazon storefront that has all the things that I order from Amazon, and I will add this one to it.
God. I do as well. I will add it too.
You do as well, yes. So you can find that on our YouTube and
Oh my
Instagram profiles. And actually, this is a great time to announce that my new website has gone live. It went live a week ago. It was right before we left for the cruise. So nataliejgrasso.com. The link is in my Instagram bio and my YouTube bio or description, video descriptions. My new site now has a page dedicated to Coach Nat's favorites. So it is all of my partner links, codes, Amazon link. So I always say never pay full price. So if there is a keto, low carb product that you're thinking about ordering, check my page first and you can get a code. I need to add Keto Brains. Keto Brains has not been added yet because that is brand new. We just started working with them.
Yeah, definitely add that.
So I'll be adding Keto Brains there. But yeah, everything else, Equip, all my electrolyte and protein recommendations, protein powders.
You need to put my InBody link on your page too.
I have it there.
You do?
It's there. Yeah. InBody's on there. Yep.
Maybe that's where everyone's coming from. That would be hilarious.
It's all me.
That would be awesome.
Maybe. But that's not the announcement. The announcement I'm working on today, a new page on my site where you can find out all about our biggest challenge of the year. So inside the Keto Bikini Academy, we do a few challenges a year. This is where we will do, we basically rotate through new training programs every 8 weeks or so. So every so often, we turn one of those into a challenge. And this is the big one where we will have $5,000 and more of prizes. You can win weekly prizes. You can win one of our grand prizes, which includes private coaching, as well as KBA memberships and lots of fun goodies. I will probably add Keto Brains to that list of prizes that I'll be giving out. So you will be able to get in on this new challenge in the next couple of days. So I am working on the site now and we will have that enrollment open likely tomorrow. So stay tuned, check my website. All the information will be going up all over my socials.
Awesome.
And if you were with us on the low carb cruise, you got a little card that gives you $50 off your enrollment in the challenge. So you can use that code you got on the cruise. If you were on the cruise and you lost the code, message me. I got you.
And if you were not on the cruise, you better be there next year.
So, didn't we say we were going to talk a little bit about the cruise today?
We did. You want to talk about the cruise?
A little recap, yes.
So I asked her yesterday what her thoughts were on the cruise, what she got out of it, what were her takeaways, and what did you tell me?
Don't ask me that at 6:30 in the morning while we're on our way to baggage claim, getting off of a red eye.
This is another example of the things how my brain works. It was literally, we were walking from getting off the plane to baggage claim at 6 o'clock in the morning after the red eye, and it just occurred to me to have this conversation about what is our recap and what did we take away from the last week.
I said, hey.
She's like, I am half asleep right now.
We were in the airport
doing
for 6 hours
prior
Friday,
and we could have talked
and we
about
had nothing to do. We could have had that conversation.
You worked.
Yeah,
I worked.
A lot of work, but we had time when we were still fresh. We could have had that conversation. So everybody's asking, where is the next cruise going?
Julian said.
Oh, so you should mention what you told me recently.
What did I tell you?
You gave me an idea for a masterclass.
Oh, yes. So Juliana just mentioned something on the YouTube side about after actions reviews, you can't take the NCO out of non-commissioned officer. You can't take the Army out of me. And I was talking to you because you talk about using, what do you call them, postmortems?
I do a weekly check-in, first and foremost. That's happening every week.
Yep.
But one of the things I talk especially about binge eating episodes. Whenever you have a binge eating episode, the most important thing to do, I call it a postmortem. You don't brush it under the rug and say, all right, move on, start fresh. without thinking about what happened and processing and analyzing what you could have done better. So I call it a postmortem. He told me the term. It was either you or Tori might have told me the term first.
After action review.
After action report.
Yeah.
Or review.
Yeah.
So what is that?
So the idea that after something, after an event, after anything, right?
Anything.
In the Army, we use it after training. We do a training session and then we review the training session. The idea, wow.
Look at that.
The idea of an after action review, or like you call it a postmortem, is not to criticize yourself or others. In a group setting, the whole emphasis is let's not turn it into a bitch session about everything that nobody liked with what happened.
But
It's more about
people do that.
The idea is what was the plan? What was the goal? What actually happened?
Right.
What can we learn from what happened? What went well? What didn't go well? And what do we do next time?
And
right? It's basically just kind of looking through those things objectively without feeling. That's the key.
Taking the emotion out.
Take the emotion out and just look at the actual truth of what happened and working through that so you can know it and have a better plan next time when you try to do something.
So when he started explaining, like, okay, these are the things you look at, I was like, oh, that's our weekly check-in form. I mean, that's basically what I'm asking on the check-in form is, okay, well, what can you acknowledge yourself for this week? So essentially what went well? What were your wins? What were your challenges or obstacles this week? And what did you learn from those? How did you handle those? Did you overcome them? Did you not? So lessons learned. And then I go into, or I think before that even, we do insights. So what were your insights this week from observing?
What were your takeaways?
Your body? What did you notice? And then what is your action plan for next week? And that should come from, okay, these were the challenges I noticed. I either overcame them or I didn't. This is how that went. This was, as each thing builds on the next thing. So as I've written all this, now I can think about what's my action plan for next week. What am I likely to encounter and how can I handle it differently?
Right.
And then anything else you want to share.
That's the idea for the masterclass of taking the idea or the framework of an after action review, tying that with what she does in the postmortems and kind of just walking, because we're both very much all about educating you guys so that you can coach yourself.
Yes.
So understanding these aren't questions that we just put in there because we think they should be in there or someone told us they should be in there.
And
we copied a form from somewhere.
I always say it's not a report card. It's not a report card. And a lot of the time clients see it that way.
Yeah, right.
Oh no, now I have to tell them all the bad things I did this week. And so I'll see things in the wins like, I don't have any. It's like, well, there was something.
Yeah.
But you're looking at it as if I'm about to judge you for however your week went.
And I think in your masterclass, you can talk about how the wording matters, and you have it as wins in your form, but really that just means what went well.
Yeah.
It's not about I did this amazing thing, because most of our success, guys, isn't some amazing thing.
Well, and it's
not the PRs that we're looking for in our wins. It's I showed up today even though I didn't feel like it. That's a win.
Yes.
Right.
The wins and the insights. A lot of the time I get folks making those into what they are not. So the wins, like you said, thinking it has to be a scale victory, thinking it has to be a certain thing. Or the insights, one of the little descriptors I have in there is, did you have any aha moments, any lessons, right? And they're like, I didn't have any aha moments. Like the aha moment had to be like this revelation, this grand revelation. It's like, no, it's just observances, things that you noticed. So yeah.
All right, real quick, before we get into our thing, we got a couple comments. Let's see here. Carl Keto Dog says we packed the travel kit and extra keto beans for the low carb cruise. Awesome.
We were sad we didn't get ours in time.
We didn't get ours in time. Can I drink too much? Karen asked, can I drink, Bubbles has rules. Can I drink too much electrolytes? I usually have 3 to 4 element per day.
Oh, so she had her trigger finger was like stuck, kind of the way your toes get.
If I have too many carbs.
So I told her about the carbs because she had mentioned a yogurt that she bought that didn't realize how many carbs were in it, but that was after this happened. So this happened before.
Was it a cramp or just got stuck?
I don't know.
Whatever. Okay. It's difficult to have too much if you're actually eating low carb.
Karen's like carnivore. Basically.
Yeah, if you're a carnivore, your body's going to expel whatever it doesn't use, so it's really usually not a problem. But if you find yourself getting any water retention, getting swelling,
she said not a cramp.
Okay. If you find yourself getting any water retention and or going to the bathroom peeing a lot, then that might be a sign that you're getting too much.
It could be a balance, an electrolyte balance.
Could be a balance thing too.
So sometimes it's like the potassium to sodium ratio needs to be adjusted.
Right. Let's see. Juliana said Insta was glitching for her. They're out in the woods.
Somebody else said there was static.
Okay. Let's see. When and where is next year's cruise? When is it? Do we know when it is?
It is.
Go to lowcarbcruise.com.
I know where, but I don't remember the dates.
And it's Caribbean, Eastern or what?
Western Caribbean, going out of Galveston next year.
Yep. I don't remember exactly when. Danny said, great meeting us. Great meeting you too. Our presentation was good. Was so good.
And I gotta say,
We got a
loved
lot of
that
feedback.
cruise. When we went out of Galveston and we went to Mexico, I really loved that cruise. We did the river thing where I lost my phone
Yes.
in the water.
Yes.
And they miraculously
found it. Yes.
I was
forgot
so
about
indebted
that.
to those guys.
We did was it tubing?
It was like
No, it was just like us. We were walking.
Yeah, we were basically walking
down
this,
and swimming,
it's
kind
like
of
a little
floating.
river, like a little.
We just had life vests on. We just kind of floated down this river.
It was so cool.
Yeah.
And then we went to the cenotes.
No, it was tubes. We were all on a tube chain. There were just sections that we got out and
sections
walked.
where we could walk, but it was getting into the tubes in the deepest part of the
Very
water
beginning.
where I dropped my phone. Thank goodness it was in one of those water pouches.
Yep.
But it was not on my neck yet because we were literally getting into the tubes and I dropped it at the very beginning. So I missed a lot of really cool photo ops,
I will say.
but I was so present.
That's exact.
I stole the words away from you. I was upset for a hot minute.
Like 30 seconds, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, it might have been longer, but it didn't seem like that because you very quickly were like,
Well,
I'm here. There's nothing I
is
can
what
do
it
about
is.
it. Let's just enjoy what we're doing. And you actually enjoyed, like you had a good time.
And
Like it was.
speaking of, this is a perfect example of this was a during action report.
Yeah.
This was like because when you do these kinds of after action reports consistently and you're thinking about how you're thinking about things, you close the gap on the tension or the stress or the trauma of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something happens, you get a little rocked, and then you're like, okay, what can I do in this situation, right? I can't do anything about the phone. I have to trust that these guys are going to go look for it. I'm either going to get it back or not. I thought for like you said, 30 seconds about, okay, what might be the damage here and what I might have to do about this later on. I was like, okay, I back up my photos. Like the only thing I really cared about on that phone was photos, because I'm like, everything else I can access from my laptop, my emails, all the things.
Yep.
Otherwise, no big deal. And I was like, okay, I might lose some photos that haven't been backed up yet from the trip, I'm not going to be able to capture this experience. But I was like, you know what? That means I can actually be more present during this experience and capture it in my mind and my memories. And boy, it was pretty amazing to be without the phone. And then I was like, you know what? I'm not going to bring my phone. The other excursions we
Just
did.
kind of just went with it. Just go with the flow.
I was like, well, I didn't think I would get it back. That was like a high moment.
Right.
Oh my God, great. Okay, now I don't have to worry about going through whatever I'd have to go through about having it replaced and all that, right? And then it also, definitely helped me kind of detach from the phone for the rest of that trip.
That was cool.
So that was really cool.
Okay.
But all that to say, it's a great cruise. We went to the cenotes, which was also a really cool experience where you go in the caves and caverns under the water. So it's a really fun cruise. I don't remember what ship we're going to be on. We'll have to look at that.
I don't remember.
But join us next year, 2026.
Okay, some people are saying
lowcarbcruise.com.
that there's some static on this side. It might be me just moving my mic. Let's see. Got another question about your hair.
My hair, okay.
Yep. Just curious, with you pulling your hair down, what inspired you to shave one side? This is the second week in a row. We had
Somebody
this question
asked that
last week.
time? Really?
Remember I told you that I responded with, I did.
Yeah, he did. No, it's funny. Years back when I was still working in my old career, my professional career, I was hanging out with a friend. This is after I got into bodybuilding, but probably before I got my pro card. And we were just hanging out at like a hookah bar. And a friend of mine said, you should shave it. Because I think somebody there had it shaved, and I thought it was really cool. And he was like, you should totally do that. You could rock that. And that planted the seed. And I was like, well, maybe if I leave this career, granted, I was in the arts, so I probably could have done it then. It wouldn't have been a big deal.
Yeah.
But I was like, well, maybe, one day. And so I've always ever since then, I've thought about it. And I just wasn't ready to do it. And then when we met, I had already left my 9 to 5. I was like, and you know what? When I did it, I remember thinking, this is kind of like a defining moment of me saying, I'm not going back. I'm not going back into an office professional setting where I have to worry about what I do with my appearance.
Yeah, your presentation. Yeah,
So.
Absolutely. Another question about salt, about electrolytes. Can too much salt cause diarrhea? Yes.
Yeah, but usually it's going to be with water. So if you're doing like a salt water flush. If you're just doing a lot of sodium without a lot of water, you could get water retention.
Right, or a lot of salt in one very short amount of time can cause gastric distress as well. So
yeah,
yes,
there's a lot to that.
There's a lot to that.
In my experience, high potassium in the absence of sodium causes diarrhea more so than
the other thing too. If is it just salt that you're doing, right? Because magnesium will definitely
certain types of magnesium
definitely make a difference. So I had a period where I was having trouble sleeping. This is now probably a year, 2 years ago.
2 years probably.
Where I was just, for some reason, I don't know what was going on. I just could not fall asleep. And I started supplementing magnesium, as I was also taking 4 to 6, maybe sometimes 8 elements a day. And
jeez,
over a period, it started getting to be where like I was just crapping all the time. And I'm like, what is going on? I can't figure out what's going on. I didn't feel like I changed anything. I wasn't exactly sure. So I started looking at, okay, what am I doing? And I realized, it hit me one day that I'm doing all these elements. All these elements have magnesium in them.
And then
I'm adding another 300 to 400 milligrams of magnesium at night. That's probably the problem. So I stopped doing the magnesium again, and then everything was fine. And I'm sleeping. And it was weird. It was like I went back to what I was doing before I did the magnesium, but that period of time of taking the extra magnesium helped me get my sleep. But now I take it, and I'm still sleeping. I just was low for some reason.
Yeah, and you corrected it with a short stint of supplementation.
Yeah.
You didn't have to continue it. Well, I mean, for a long time, years, I was taking the Natural Calm magnesium citrate,
right,
or chloride, whatever version. It's the powdered Natural Calm is the brand. And when I first went carnivore, I was still taking that.
Yep.
And I remember trying out some of the higher potassium supplements, electrolyte powders at that time. Major loose stool. And then, I don't know, maybe it was when you took the magnesium out.
You did too.
I did too.
Like you did too, yeah.
And I have not had those problems ever since. So I think it was the type of magnesium for me, the amount of magnesium, and then the sodium to potassium ratio.
Yeah. Okay.
That's and now I can do much higher potassium, and I prefer closer to like a 2-to-1 or even sometimes 1-to-1 sodium to potassium ratio, where I used to do elements, which was like a 4-to-1 sodium to potassium. I used to thrive on that, and now I'm doing better with higher potassium and a little bit lower sodium.
So why don't you real quick, before we talk about what we said we were going to talk about, since we've been on for 30 minutes, give them a real quick rundown of what you're doing with electrolytes and testing different ones and samples and which ones you found that you like and all. And if you want, I can go grab a bunch. I don't know if we have all of them. But lately, she's been going through like every couple of days. There's a new brand of electrolytes.
New brands
so talk about
pop
that real
onto
quick.
my ads, and then they offer specials when they're a new company, right? So they're trying to get their stuff out there. So I will take advantage of those and try the new supplements. So I've tried quite a few. For those in the academy, I showed all the different ones I had. I shared my experience thus far. So if you really want the deep dive on that, join the academy. You'll have access to that video. It's one of our Zoom calls. But short answer here is there's a few companies there's one in particular, I don't remember when I started using it, but now it's one of my favorite ones. And it was not even a new company. I think they've been around for quite a while. They do a lot of protein powders and other things. I don't use any of their other products except for their electrolytes. And it is called 310 Nutrition, 310 Nutrition. They have hydrates, and I think I may have found them originally in Sprouts, because I usually will buy the individual packets at Sprouts because they're always doing sales at my local Sprouts on the individual packets. The whole boxes, they never do. They never make those on sale. So I'm literally buying like 15 to 20 individual packets at a time from Sprouts because they usually end up being close to $1 per packet. But they have a cucumber flavor that is amazing, and I've never found a cucumber flavor anywhere else. So hint, hint, wink, wink to some of my favorite brands like Salty, cucumber melon, cucumber mint, mojito. Like, if you would do something like that, I'd be all over it. I'm just going to put my request in for Salty to do a cucumber-ish flavor.
Oh my God, if Salty did a cucumber,
right?
Seriously.
So
everybody needs to email Chris and Miriam and tell them
cucumber,
they need
we want
or go on
cucumber.
their Facebook page, whatever, and say, we need a cucumber flavor.
And everybody who's tried the 310 hydration cucumber has all told me I didn't think I would like it, and I love it.
It's awesome.
It's
honestly,
super.
I like all their flavors.
All their flavors are good.
I like all their
Yeah, they have like a peach mango. You like the wild
They have a
berry.
berry. Yep, the wild berry is good.
I really like their strawberry. So they have a lot of flavors that you don't always find everywhere
They're
else. They're
not
mild.
real. They're strong flavors, but they're not like Element where it just like punches you in the face. Over sweet, maybe over sweet, over tart.
Yeah. They're not too much.
They're chill but flavorful.
Yes.
How's that for a description?
Yes. And the sodium it's 500 milligrams of sodium and 380 potassium. So it's like a what? Like a 3/4
Which one?
Hydrates.
I'm gonna look.
It's no, I know how much it is. I'm just estimating the percentage because it's 380 to 500.
Okay.
So it's maybe like a 75-80%.
Oh. No. Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah,
80 to 85.
Yeah, so it's almost 100. I mean, it's almost 1-to-1. And that's been doing really well. They also put B vitamins in there, I think.
Yep.
I'm trying to remember what else. They had a couple of other micronutrients in there. So I don't know if that's made a difference with anything. Maybe that's why I'm feeling better with the higher potassium. It may not just be the potassium, it may be the B vitamins they're putting in there. But a lot of the other ones that I've tried, I'm not impressed with. If y'all have seen, it's a brand new company, and I hate to throw them under the bus because I love supporting small businesses. But
Well, then don't say anything about them.
but it's bad. Maybe I'll even message them and let them know, like,
Say, hey guys, here's some
there's some things they can work on. But Athlites, ATH, lights, so like athletes. I mean, the packaging is inconsistent. The sizing is inconsistent. It doesn't blend well, so you're either getting a shot of flavor or a shot of salt. It's just sometimes the new ones are they don't have the manufacturing really well.
You don't know
yet.
what their manufacturing process is.
So Salty is now also, Salty's been coming out with a bunch of new flavors. I just got to try another new prototype.
Ooh.
I can't mention the
Can't
flavor
say it,
yet.
can't say it.
But it's spot on. I mean, I gotta say, Salty really nails it with the flavors. When they say it's a flavor, like you can really taste it.
Yeah.
And they've been doing this prototyping. The last flavor that they now have announced, so I can say what it is, Red, White, and Bam. It's basically the Bomb Pops from our childhood.
We call them Rocket Pops.
Rocket or Bomb Pops, yeah. Red, White, and Blue. It's a cherry, blue, raspberry, and lime. And it is so good. I think it's my favorite flavor ever. Although they're grapefruit.
You like those mixed flavors?
When they came out with the grapefruit, though, they nailed it on that one too. So they're just really good with their flavors, and they redid some of their older flavors too.
Oh, I didn't know
Citrus.
that. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And that came out better. So I'm just really happy with Salty right now. I need to make a order with them. I haven't tried Relight again in a while, but they just came out with a bunch of new flavors.
Their flavors, they've had some pretty good flavors over the years.
So I need to make a Salty and a Relight order.
Yeah.
Because they came out with brand new flavors.
We had to
this summer.
pick the top three, it would be Salty, Relight, and 310.
Yeah.
Those would be the top three.
We've been off Element for a little while now.
Whenever we get free stuff, we keep it, but
we haven't ordered in a while. They just came out with a lemonade that everybody is raving about. So I think I will order a box because I've got to try it.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if I want to answer this one right now or if we want to come to that one later. It's an interesting
Ooh, that's a good question.
Do you want to do it now or?
Well, how do you want to introduce the topic? Because it's kind of related to the topic.
Well, maybe. Okay, so the topic is long-term keto. We've seen recently.
Okay, it's not related.
It's not quite related. We've seen a lot of content over the past several months related to, and honestly, this isn't new. I did a video with Dr. Sidus.
Deb said, yep, the Element Lemonade is delicious.
I did a video with Dr. Sidus almost 3 years ago, and Bart K, the same 2 to 3 years ago, on this topic, like long-term ketogenic diets. Are they sustainable? Are they healthy? Et cetera, et cetera. And there is a lot of stuff. Dr. James D. Nicolantonio has some stuff out. Paul Saladino coming out saying all these things about why carnivore failed him. All of these people coming out against keto or carnivore because it's not sustainable because of T3, thyroid is the big one, cortisol is the other one, and we kind of want to just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it just
and the
baselining
long-term low insulin.
Right. That's where the cortisol piece comes into play. So we've talked about this before, but I feel like it comes around. We've been hearing a lot about it lately. Dr. Baker just came out with a video that we saw this morning, which kind of triggered this whole thing.
Did you see? I sent you the study.
Yes, yeah. I'll take a look at it.
So James Nicolantonio was arguing under Sean Baker's post this morning.
Right.
And that got us on this topic. And then Bronson was like, "Oh, let's talk about it."
Let's just talk about it. So there's a lot of people, and this Ben Azadi talks about it as well. The whole idea of the way he talks about flexing and metabolic flexibility. And I'll just start with. I don't even know where to start. There's so many different areas here. Let's start with conceptual and talk about the biggest problem that I see in this topic.
Okay.
Is the words that we use and how we are claiming success or failure.
Ah, yes.
Okay. It drives me absolutely crazy. And one of the speakers on the cruise had an in-depth conversation with him where he was talking about how he has patients who are on the carnivore diet having this problem and that problem and this problem. And it's the carnivore diet that is the problem. And I just had to ask him, like, how are you defining that?
How are you determining?
Right? How are you determining that it's carnivore? Because I can define carnivore one way, she can define it another way, you can define it another way, and there's 1,000, 2,000 people watching. So there's 1,000, 2,000 different definitions of carnivore. And then there's even more when we talk about keto, because carnivore is a subset of keto. So now are we talking about dirty keto, lazy keto, ketovore, like carnivore, hypercarnivore, lion diet, like
Yeah, how are we
Claiming that
defining our
a specific
terms?
diet by a name is not working for you is illogical. It's diluted because it's not the diet that works or doesn't work. It's the nutrition that you get, regardless of what you call that model that you're following. Your diet is just a framework for how you deliver nutrition to your body. So the name that you give it still has to be
Focus.
provide adequate nutrition for you and your context. Where are you at? Where are you trying to go? What is your current lifestyle and what are you trying to get to? That's what's working or not working. So understanding that the diet is not the determining factor. The name of the diet is not the determining factor of whether you're going to have success or not. Carnivore is not going to fix your problems. Keto is not going to fix your problems. Getting the nutrition that you need, getting it in a way that your body can use it, and then getting it in a way that it helps manage what you get without you over consuming or under consuming, because that satiety works both ways. That's a whole conversation we haven't talked about. Okay. Those are the three concepts of nutrition that must be in place for your nutrition to be effective. It has nothing to do with the name. So that's the baseline. That's the setting for this whole thing. So when somebody tells you carnivore messes up your insulin or long-term keto isn't good for cortisol, that's not the whole story. That is not the whole story. Because here's another aspect that we're going to throw in there. We just talked about the name of the diet isn't the determining factor of success. Nutrition also isn't your determining factor of success. Sleep, stress, fitness, lifestyle.
360 degrees.
Right? We talk about holistic. I just had a conversation with someone who was interested in coaching. And I told him, I said, look, I don't work just on nutrition. My goal as a coach, I'm focusing very much on helping athletes adapt to a ketogenic lifestyle.
Yep.
That does not mean I only work with nutrition. I look at the entire athlete. That means I'm looking at their stress, I'm looking at their sleep, I'm looking at their body composition, I'm looking at their performance. I'm looking at all of the different aspects that go into making them a better athlete and maintaining their health combined. Because I don't want to improve performance at the expense of health as much as possible. So when we talk about what's working, it's not the diet, it's not the name of the diet, and it's not just the nutrition. How many times do we see people who say keto didn't work for me, but they're working out 5 days a week, they're getting 15,000 steps in every day, right? They sleep 6 hours a day, they drink 5 cups of coffee a day, or they're intermittent fasting, all of these other things.
Yep.
Right? Do you have anything to throw in there?
You covered it. What else is there to say?
So, okay, talk about what are the things that we're hearing from let's talk about some of the mechanisms and just kind of cover that base a little bit outside of the diets, right?
What are the arguments about why?
So one of them is the dangers of lower thyroid.
Oh, yeah.
Long-term keto or carnivore screws up your thyroid is what you're going to hear. Because you don't make as much T3. I don't know if we know yet if that's bad, because I haven't heard of anybody with a lower T3 on a carnivore or keto diet that's having symptoms of low T3.
Right.
So I think this is one of those areas, just like A1C, just like LDL, just like creatinine and BUN. There's a handful of markers that are based on carb-centric standard American diet nutrition that change or become irrelevant or need to be refactored when we consider ketogenic adaptation. I see this in exercise science all the time. There are a handful of markers in exercise science that are used to determine metabolic efficiency and metabolic performance for athletes. A good number of them, and I actually have some papers coming out, a good number of them do not apply, flat out do not apply when applied to a ketogenic adapted athlete. So I think this is one of those cases. We're looking at T3. Okay, your T3 is low compared to a standard American diet person.
Yep.
But are you having any symptoms? No. Do you have any issues that a normal T3 would cause? No, I don't. Nothing that is apparent. So then why are we worried about it?
Yeah, and most of the time what you're going to see is your T3 might be lower, but your T4 and your TSH are still fine,
right.
Still normal, still optimal. And that's my case.
Right.
My T4, TSH, my TSH is beautiful. Functional doctor freaking loves it. Like I'm like a unicorn with my TSH. But my T3 looks low according to standard ranges.
Which, if there was a problem, you would think mechanistically that T4 gets converted to T3. So if your T3 is low, you would have more T4 if it's not converting properly.
Yeah.
But your T4 is fine.
It's not high, right?
So
the question out there, or the thinking, is that we may not need as much T3 on a low carb ketogenic
in a more healthy environment with less inflammation and more metabolic efficiency, right? That's the thing about this.
There may be less of a need for it.
It's the same as vitamin C. We talk about the whole vitamin C thing. We need some vitamin C for certain things, but the amount that we need as a low carb person is much, much less, because as a low carb animal-based whole foods person,
there you go, qualify it, right?
Because a lot of the things that we get from meat is directly impacting what vitamin C would be used for. We don't need the extra vitamin C. So these things change in the context. And
I always like to point this out about fiber. So the whole argument of fiber being beneficial and it's bad to not have fiber in your diet, the reason why fiber is beneficial in the context of a high carb standard American diet is because so all the studies that you see about fiber are done in that context. And in that context, it can be helpful. And generally, it's because if you're eating higher fiber, you're eating more whole foods, not foods that are adding a bunch of crap fibers to them.
Well, that's where a lot of the problem comes in, right? I'm going to eat McDonald's every day and then take two cups of Metamucil every night before I go to bed. It's
not the same thing.
Yeah, it's not the same thing. Okay, so that's one thing. I think just understanding the thyroid thing. I don't know. I'm not going to say it's not a problem. I think the claims of it being a problem very likely are misplaced in what I've seen. Because again, I haven't seen anybody that has this change, this problem with the marker, that the marker is actually creating symptoms in their life.
Right.
So that's something to think about.
Yeah.
And then that goes back into the whole insulin thing. And, one of the mechanisms behind why people are saying your thyroid's messed up is because your insulin is low all the time. And the biggest thing I see with that is, again, it's not being keto that's the problem. It's chasing ketones. Right? Continual ketosis can be a problem. Chronically low insulin without having any spikes or any rises, I don't even want to say spikes, any increase in insulin.
It doesn't have to be a spike.
Right? Can be a problem. Insulin is a hormone that your body needs to use to do certain things. And if you always keep it low, then you could have problems long term. So, but that doesn't mean keto is bad. That doesn't mean carnivore is bad. That doesn't mean the carnivore diet isn't sustainable. And I hate to use this phrase because it's accurate, but it can also be, people say, well, you shouldn't have to say that, or the perception of this phrase can be taken wrong. And that is, if you're having this problem, it's just because you're doing it wrong. I don't know how else to say that. You're doing it in a way that is not benefiting your health, so that means you're doing it wrong. Not because there's a right way to do keto, but there is a way that you can use a ketogenic diet that's going to benefit you. There's a difference. I'm not saying here's the rule book, you have to follow the rule book. What I'm saying is there are concepts behind what makes a good ketogenic diet for you. You have to figure out what that is.
Right.
right?
Yep.
That may be more protein, less fat, more fat, less protein. That may be increase your electrolytes. That may be, you can do heavy cream or you cannot, or you want to throw in some potatoes or other types of things or not. Like all of those things are up to you to decide, right? So, and remember that the ketogenic diet, there's three main ways I see people do keto, right? There's the basing it off of macros. Your macros have to be this to be on a ketogenic diet.
Typically, it's a ratio.
Right? And that's the second kind of tied way. It's the ratio, right? It's got to be 70% fat. It's got to be 65% fat. It's got to be 80% fat, whatever it may be. And then there's the other way, which is if you're not at this ketone level, then you're not eating
Right.
keto. So one is set on, here's what your food should look like. The other one is set on, it doesn't matter what your food looks like as long as you're in this range of ketones. And I would say neither of those is 100%. It should be a combination of the two. You should be evaluating what you're eating to maintain fat adaptation, not ketones. Okay? You can use ketones to help identify when you're burning fat, right? But ketones being high all of the time is not the goal, right? And we can do another video, but that could be a whole nother, how do I know if I'm actually fat adapted and all, that might be another good video to do.
Yeah, that would be a good one. We did one also about ketones and fat adaptation versus ketosis.
Right.
Recently.
Yeah, there's a few weeks ago. So that's one of the mistakes that we see people do is chasing ketones, trying to keep their ketones high. Don't do that. Don't do that. Again, always focus on protein. Keep your carbs low enough. And this is one of those things, you're tracking data, you're looking at your macros, you're looking at your body composition. Am I losing body fat? That's one way to tell. If you're not losing body fat, it's very likely you're getting too much carbs or fat in your diet. You might need to cut it back a little bit, regardless of your ketones. Okay. What's another?
Yeah, ketosis is not what's driving your fat loss. Ooh. That's another big misconception.
Ooh, but just ketones are magic.
Ketosis does not mean magical weight loss.
Let's talk about that for a second, because everybody talks, well, ketones improve fat loss, blah, blah, blah. Guys, if ketones were the key to your fat loss, then taking exogenous ketones would be all you need to do to lose fat.
So some people are going to tell you if they're selling them.
It doesn't work that way. I'm sorry. It doesn't work that way. So there's more to it. It's about fat adaptation, which means being able to actually utilize the fat you have on your body. The ketones are secondary to that. Ketones are not the goal. Ketones are a result. They're a metabolite. They're a byproduct of actually burning fat. All right? Keep that in mind. You want to be fat adapted, which is your metabolic flexibility. Let's talk about that real quick. This is another mistake that I think people get when it comes to their case for not being
keto not working.
It's keto not working, but it's a kind of a flip side. It's more along the lines of why you should have carbs every once in a while, why you should carb cycle, because you want to be metabolically flexible.
That side, yeah. Yeah.
Your body's ability to process and utilize carbs through your digestive system is not metabolic flexibility. You do not need to eat carbs to be metabolically flexible. They are two separate systems. Metabolic flexibility, what does metabolic mean? Metabolic means the function of your body, your metabolism, the engine of how your body works, okay? Eating carbs, carb cycling, only impacts your digestive system. Can my body digest potatoes or vegetables or pie, whatever it may be? I don't have to eat that stuff in order to get the glucose from the carbs into my system, because my body, on the metabolic side, we all know gluconeogenesis, my body will break down fat and turn it into glucose. Okay? Flexibility from a metabolism perspective is about your body's ability to use what you already have to provide the things that you need. When I'm burning fat, I have fat available. When I need glucose, I can make it. Okay? This is why carbs are not essential. Essential nutrition, essential nutrients are any nutrient that our body cannot produce inside itself. Okay? That's why fat and protein are essential. Carbs are not. Okay? So that is the difference. Metabolic flexibility is not about what you're eating. It's about how are you supporting your body's ability to produce and switch between fuels.
And to create metabolic flexibility, you need to become fat adapted. Let me be clear on that.
Very good. Very good.
Carbs come earlier in the oxidative process. So they take oxidative priority over fats if you have carbs present. So if you're consuming carbs and it's breaking down into glucose, which your body is not going to forget how to break down carbs into glucose.
Okay, let's talk about that.
That's another misconception with why long-term ketosis is bad, because they basically say you become insulin resistant.
Insulin suppressed, which as much as I love,
but they call it insulin, not Dr. Sivas. I'm talking about the haters.
You're talking about the physiological
that
insulin
say
resistance?
You're going to become it. This diet makes you insulin resistant because you're taking the carbs out, so now your body doesn't know how to process them anymore.
Yeah, so
that's not true.
That's not true. There are numerous studies that show that a ketogenic diet improves insulin resistance. I don't understand how anybody could get that mixed up. The mental gymnastics that people have to go through to say that ketogenic diets make insulin resistance worse.
Now you can become more glucose sensitive, so meaning when you do consume carbs after not consuming them for a long period of time, your blood glucose is going to go through the roof when you eat carbs. But that just means you're more sensitive to that glucose. It doesn't mean you've become insulin resistant. Right. That's not what that means. And
you're still going to have an insulin response.
And then once you consume those carbs a little bit more consistently, if you keep eating more carbs, your body's going to adjust to that too. And you're not going to have massive glucose spikes every single time.
Yeah. The idea that keto
that's not the
creates
same thing
insulin resistance doesn't make sense.
Resistance. Yeah.
If you're eating whole foods, protein and fat, you're going to have an insulin response. That's going to be more healthy. And
you'll actually become more insulin sensitive.
Yeah, and if you're exercising, that's also something that's going to improve your insulin sensitivity. So I don't see any scenario that makes sense to me where being ketogenic is not good for insulin sensitivity. Just doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. All right, so that's this quick hit, I guess, on the problems that we see with keto long term. They aren't really problems. It's not about keto. It's not about carnivore. It's about how you're doing it. Are you focusing on good nutrition? Are you focusing on nutrient density? Are you focusing on bioavailability? Are you focusing on getting the food that you need to keep yourself hungry and or to keep yourself not hungry, right? So I say keep yourself hungry. I say that on purpose because there are some people who don't feel hungry and they're not eating because they haven't taught their bodies what they actually need. They're used to not eating. They're used to working all day long, right? That's a whole nother aspect of, you can call it leptin resistance, you can talk it training your satiety, whatever it may be, but it has to do with what you're eating, as well as some mindset stuff, but another topic for another day. So that's it.
So I think what you're getting at here, the takeaway is if you're having problems with anything, health, your fat loss goals, whatever it might be, whatever reason you went keto or went carnivore, if you're not getting the benefits, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Look at what you're doing, analyze, and look at what you might be able to tweak.
Do your after action report.
Within keto, carnivore, whatever it might be, to say, okay, how can I optimize within this way of eating before I just say, it's because I'm not eating carbs. Now I have to eat carbs, and that's the only thing that's going to make me feel better.
Don't use the label of what you're doing for your nutrition as a reason to not do it. Baby bath
so
water.
much you can do within
absolutely.
the low carb umbrella.
Maybe
you don't have to give it a name at all.
Yeah. And if you want to give it a name, maybe you're doing carnivore, hyper carnivore, whatever it may be, change it and do the next level that's less restrictive and see what happens. Maybe go more restrictive. Maybe you're doing ketovore and you need to be carnivore.
Or maybe you need to eat more food. Or maybe you just need to
less
eat
food.
More. Or maybe you need to change your macros. Or
there's so many different things.
You need to change your supplements. A lot of the time, people are consuming supplements that are screwing them up.
We should do a talk on that. We should do a video on that, supplementation. Because, guys, supplements are only
supplemental.
The best way to get the most out of your supplements is to do everything you possibly can to not need them. If you are doing everything that you can from a nutrition perspective, the 3 things I talked about already, if you're exercising, if you're getting good sleep, if you're doing these things. Now, I have heard people make arguments when it comes to supplements. Well, maybe I need a supplement to help me get good sleep. Okay.
Right.
There's aspects of where supplementation may fit in. But if you're using supplementation, here's the mistake we see people do. If you're using supplementation to replace good nutrition, that's where you get the problem.
Yeah.
If you have a deficiency and there's something that you need, even if it's for a short period of time, then we can, we talk about supplementation being helpful. I used magnesium for a period of time to help me sleep better. Then I stopped once I got that all worked out, and it started making me poop all the time. But
this is why you need to tune into your body's signals.
Yeah.
And say, okay, if something's not right, let me look at everything I'm doing. Because some of you are taking a boatload of supplements and you've been taking them for a very long time and you have never tested out removing them. Here's a little example. I usually take creatine. I increased my amount of creatine over these last few months from 5 grams a day up to 15 to 20 grams a day. And I do think that it was helping with some of the brain stuff, just more focus and alertness in the morning. Now that I've got my keto brains, maybe I don't even need it anymore.
Right.
But I didn't bring it. I chose not to bring any powdered supplements on the cruise with us. So I left my creatine at home. So that was a good 10 days. So it's been almost 2 weeks now that I haven't been using creatine. I'm not going to put it back in yet. I just decided, look, like I said, we got home on the red eye yesterday, right? I was like, I'm baselining this week because I'm about to start a cut for my next show. So
I'm cutting with her. We're going to talk. We got to, guys,
Next
remind us every week, talk about that.
Yes. We'll give you a little update at the beginning on our cuts.
I did my first InBody in almost a year.
Y'all, that was interesting. What did you think about it?
It was about where I thought. It was about what I expected.
You know what I thought about? You had goals that you set about where you wanted your numbers to be, and you're pretty damn close to those numbers. Because you wanted to get to 100 pounds of skeletal muscle mass.
I've been between 94 and 96 for.
Yeah, but you're 98 now.
Was it 98? No, it wasn't 98. No way.
I thought it was 98.
It wasn't 98. Hold on, let's look.
Because it was 96 before?
Let's look at my InBody app. 94.
Oh, 94. You're looking at the 18. I totally added that 8. Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to do that, we can say it's 98.
He went up from 92 to 94 pounds of skeletal muscle.
Yeah.
He's sitting at 200 pounds.
So I'm 5 pounds heavier than I want to.
Beef.
I'm 5 pounds heavier than I want to be.
And his body fat percentage is 18%.
For where we're going, if I really want to get,
you're going to get to 10%.
I don't think you could handle it if I was 10%.
I'm so ready. Come on, bring it.
Bring it. I don't think you can handle me at 10%.
Can you handle me at 12%?
I can handle you at any percent.
I might get to 10% for this prep.
I don't know.
Y'all, my goal this
year, if I get to 10%, you need to hydrate a lot.
Is to get completely peeled like I've never been before. So I might actually end up at 10%.
We may talk about where we're at, where we're thinking about going, what our plan looks like.
Yeah, next week we can talk about plan, goals.
So numbers. Next week's talk will be cutting on carnivore.
Okay.
How about that? How's that work for you guys? We'll talk about how are we going to go about cutting. For me, it's a lot pretty straightforward.
Simple. I mean, everything for you is simpler though than my stuff always.
Well, we talked about that, right? The whole ladies, if your guy's losing faster than you. There's a reason
There's
for
a
that.
reason. He's got almost double the muscle, the skeletal muscle than I do.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Why did we go there?
I don't remember. We have questions though. All right. Hopefully some of these people are still on. Let's see. We want to ask talk about Juliana's question.
Sure.
What signs should I watch for to know my body is healing and not just detoxing or struggling in the first 30 to 60 days of carnivore? Well,
oh boy.
This is,
There's
we could do
so
a
many
whole thing.
qualifiers.
I'm going to say one thing.
Okay.
Why did you do it? And is that getting better?
I like that. Okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
If I'm making a change, I'm making a change for a reason.
Yep.
If I'm tracking, if I have a goal, what are my metrics for that goal?
Identify the metrics you are tracking
Yeah.
to determine progress.
What am I using as my definition of success?
What is healing? What does that mean? And what does
is that
success
changing?
look like?
That's
Yes.
because
That's key.
that is not a question that we can specifically answer for any one person. It's a general.
Yeah.
Why are you doing it? What are your goals? What are you tracking? And is it happening?
And I will say, when it comes to things like carnivore, for a lot of people, they're doing carnivore. If you're doing carnivore to heal something, especially if we're talking about like elimination diets, a lot of the time you're going to experience Herxheimer reactions, die-off reactions, essentially what she's talking about.
What's a
detox.
Herxheimer reaction?
It's essentially, it's kind of like hair of the dog when it comes to your symptoms you were experiencing. So the symptoms you were changing your diet to improve, you may experience more of those symptoms at first. It's like, what's the word?
I'm gonna find the definition and
what is a Herxheimer reaction?
Yeah.
Definition.
Yep. Read the
What is the
definition.
definition?
That's not a good
That's
definition.
a very clinical, it's very large
sudden
word.
onset of systemic it is characterized by a sudden onset of systemic symptoms, often within 24 hours of treatment, and typically resolves on its own within a few hours.
Or a
so
few
basically,
days.
right, it's when, in this context, it's antibiotic treatment, but in
Oh,
general,
right. Yeah, because if you're
it can
doing
happen-
heavy herbals or something, like let's say
Right.
you start working with a coach to do a particular protocol for healing and they've got you on heavy herbals, for example, this is where especially we will pay attention to whether your symptoms are heightened. And you may need to, if you've read Sally Norton's book, she talks a lot about this as it relates to oxalates, oxalate dumping, for example, on a carnivore diet. If you go too hard too soon when it comes to eliminating oxalates, if you're eating a ton of spinach every day and then you go to completely nothing, you may experience severe symptoms. And if that's the case, she talks about a protocol of reducing oxalates over time so that you're not having to deal with these
It's not
massive
exactly the same, but think of it as withdrawal.
Yeah, that's a really good way of explaining
Right, it's
it.
not exactly the same, but that's kind of withdrawal symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, other questions. Carl Keto Dog says all animals practice zoo pharmacognose.
Pharmacognosy. What?
I mean that zoo pharmacology is what
I
I'm
think
gonna
is what he
say,
meant.
right? Even carnivores add fruits and veg in order to get the nutrition they need. The human animal needs to do the same. Adjust, right? Pay attention to what you're doing, how you're feeling, what's working, and adjust accordingly. How do I determine how much I need from a vitamins?
Read the whole thing.
Okay, all the nutritional aspects of vitamins and such can get overwhelming. How do you determine how much you need nutrition-wise?
That's a tricky one.
That is a tricky one. I would say that the way that I do it is I focus on the quality of what I'm eating, basically being animal-based. And it's really
determine how much you need.
Yeah. So when we talk about specific, so there's a base, and I hate to use the word belief, but so I'm going to say understanding. So I've accepted that in many cases, what the RDAs are are not applicable to me. In my understanding,
Ooh, we should
are
cover
not
that.
applicable
When we do
to
supplements, we should talk about
a
RDAs.
carnivore diet.
Yeah.
So my understanding is that an animal-based whole foods variety, right? Meat, eggs, seafood primarily, red
And
meat,
all different kinds of meat.
eggs and seafood primarily, have everything that I need if I'm eating enough. So and this is kind of, we've done, it's without getting into all the details, between the two of us, the experience of training and the stuff that we've done researching and looking at just all of this information is where we come up with the recommendations we have for general macro intake. So for us to say, you should be getting about 1 gram of protein and fat or carbs from whole food sources to body weight or lean mass or whatever, we're basing that on knowing what's worked for people and knowing that that is enough nutrition, including multivitamins or including micronutrients and minerals.
In the context of a whole foods
diet. In the context of a whole food diet. So specifically, I don't know about you. I've never specifically looked at micronutrient or RDAs. I never look at that.
So I recently actually talked about this recently on either a feedback video or Zoom inside the Academy, because somebody was asking me about electrolytes. They noticed that
they're way over.
Their goals or targets in Chronometer were like way off from what they were consuming. And so I had a mini discussion about this, and we should definitely dive into this when we do when we do a supplements topic. But absolutely, the RDAs, and unfortunately it's not across the board. So it's not like every RDA is the same. In terms of, like, for instance, we know that protein RDA is wildly under optimal.
In our opinion.
No, not just in our opinion. It's well known that the RDA is set based on a minimum for survival. So the RDA for protein is not based on an optimal level for optimal human health. It's for not dying, right? That it's a minimum. But a lot of people look at it as if it's a maximum, and that's a very flawed way to look at that. But that's for protein. Other things, and in the other things will either shift in the context of a low carb diet. For instance, the RDA for sodium, first of all, is already what we would say is under optimal for humans.
But in the context of a high carb diet.
But in the context of a high carb diet, right, then you do need to watch your sodium more than you would in a low carb situation. Low carb diets, you're going to need more sodium. Similar to potassium, magnesium is, I want to say it's not far off. Magnesium is not too terrible. So here's the tough thing. All the micronutrients, B vitamins, all the vitamins, all the minerals, some of them are going to be higher than what is optimal for you in terms of RDAs. Some of them are going to be lower. So they're not all the same across the board.
The assumption that, and this is something I don't know. I mean, there are studies and the data is out there on what vitamins are in different foods, right? We know if, beef has this. As far as how that applies to what you need, it's really kind of your individual decision. You have to decide, do I believe, and this is where I hate to say this, but do I believe that humans are designed to be carnivores or to primarily eat red meat? If you believe that, then you kind of also have to say, well, then that would be, the assumption is that red meat has everything I need. So if red meat has everything I need, and that's primarily what I'm eating, then what am I worried about? Now, again, everyone's different. Maybe you have a history of really bad nutrition or a medical condition. Maybe you're on a medication that is affecting your micronutrient balance.
There's that too.
Right?
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of things that go into that. Well, maybe I'm on this medication, which means regardless of my diet, I still have to supplement iron. I still have to supplement K2, whatever it may be, because of this medication I'm on. So there's a whole bunch of things that go into that we can't make a recommendation. It's really, this goes back to you have to figure it out and experiment with and look at all the things going into it.
Unfortunately, for most micronutrients, you're not going to notice a deficiency right away.
Right.
it takes
years
in
sometimes.
some cases. But if you do notice symptoms, if you're still struggling with fatigue, right? What he was talking about earlier, not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, looking at everything and saying, am I just going to blame this on the carnivore diet, or am I going to look at, do I need to change my electrolytes? Do I need to change what I'm doing for my fitness? Do I need to work on my sleep, my stress levels, all of these other things, right? If you're looking at all of those and you've dialed things in and you're still having symptoms, I highly recommend to anyone always to be getting your blood work minimum once a year. I would say for most people, at least every 6 months. And for those who really want to keep things in check even more, quarterly, if you have the money to do it, or you can get a lot of it covered by your insurance or whatnot. When people ask about, okay, well then what do we want for blood work, right? That could be a whole, eventually I'm going to do a masterclass on that. But if you're curious about your micronutrients, your micronutrition, you can get additional micronutrient testing done to see, okay, am I low in something? Because here's a situation, a lot of carnivores out there are low in B vitamins, low in iron, and they shouldn't be. If you're eating a lot of red meat, you shouldn't be low in these things. So that points to something going on with you to where you are not absorbing and assimilating and utilizing the nutrients that you're getting from that meat.
Or you're getting...
Yes, you might be getting that in your nutrition, but if you have this is what Dr. Lenskis was talking about on the cruise, if you have a gut condition that's untreated, y'all, I'm so sorry to say this, carnivore's not going to heal you all by itself.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, like you said, Dr. Lenskis talked about.
A diet is a place to start, but diets don't heal
everything.
Clinical diagnosis, problems that you're having that may need more. Yeah. You might need antibiotics for a period of time. You might need to go through a whole protocol. If you have SIBO, yes, carnivore will reduce your symptoms because you're removing the stressors. You're removing the inflammatory substances. And this is why so many people feel better on a carnivore diet. But it doesn't mean it's healed the underlying condition.
Think about it this way. It's the shade on the window. Going to a cleaner, healthier diet, right? Even if you just go from standard American diet and you don't say you're going keto, but you just go from processed foods to all natural, whole food sources, you're going to take that screen off the window and it's going to give you insight. You can see now inside better what's going on. And then you can make different choices. So it's really just about cleaning up the noise, getting rid of the noise. And it's going to fix some things. It's going to help you feel better. It's going to balance some of your metabolic function. But there may be some underlying things that have been so screwed up for so long that they need specific interventions in order to help you fix it. Some autoimmune stuff, definitely some gut things that you might want to go in. And when we say the nutrition isn't going to fix everything, it's very likely, because we see this happen with a lot of people, that it does fix some things. And it may fix it over time. But if you're trying to deal with an issue right now, maybe a specific intervention to improve your gut function is a better choice than waiting 5 years to heal everything.
And I was going to say, so from a nutritional therapy perspective, what we would do is we assess where you're starting from, all of your symptoms. Yeah. I talked about this somewhere recently, but there's a cascade that happens in your body, right? So when you have some dysfunction.
Oh, we're about to get into it.
I gotta just mention this. I'm not gonna go into it because it could be another hour. But there's an upstream to downstream effect. So if you have upstream issues and you can correct those, a lot of the downstream issues will correct themselves. Yeah. But if you are trying to throw everything at these downstream issues and you never deal with the upstream issues, you're going to keep having a recurrence of these things. Right. And here's just a perfect example as it relates to the micronutrition. You may not be receiving the nutrients that you're getting from your highly nutrient-dense, bioavailable foods like red meat. If that's the case, one of the first places I generally recommend starting for clients is, do you have enough stomach acid? Because especially when we're talking about meat, protein and fat, but especially the proteins. If your body is not breaking that down because you don't have enough stomach acid, our stomachs should be highly acidic to be able to break down our food and to get the nutrients out of our
You're
food.
triggering me right now.
And some of the nutrients require higher amounts of acid to be able to be assimilated by the body.
That's why sodium is so important.
Iron is one of those things. So my ladies who are anemic, you could be eating all the red meat in the world. If your iron is low and your ferritin is low, it could be a stomach acid issue. So all that to say, it's nuanced, unfortunately, as we always say.
Okay.
Fasting.
Okay, fasting. And we got to get through these quick. We've been on for almost an hour and a half. Are there any benefits to fasting? There are so many out there that find it beneficial, but I have yet to go beyond 24 hours. Plus, I weight train now. Okay, Deb Nelson asked that question. I think we've done videos, and we'll say this again. I'm sure we'll do more videos down the road. Fasting on purpose is often sending you in the wrong direction. Okay? A ketogenic diet, whatever version of a ketogenic diet you're doing, if you're doing it properly, will give you all of the same benefits as fasting without depriving your body of nutrition.
And causing more stress.
And causing more problems, because long-term continual fasting is actually more harmful. Okay? Second thing, if you are regularly doing resistance training and you are keto, you are doubling down on the benefits of a ketogenic fasting mimicking diet, and fasting is pointless. Okay? So in general, fasting is pointless. If you're going to fast, if anything, it should be a natural progression of how your body responds to your nutrition and your lifestyle.
And it should be intermittent.
Right? Intermittent. Usually what I see, and I don't know if you see the same thing, what I see in most people is they fall into a 2 meal a day pattern, maybe a third snacker or something there, but there's usually a 6 to 8 hour window where they get 2 meals a day and they're fine. If you're eating enough and it's good quality, animal-based whole foods, and you're getting enough in each meal, then you will probably be fine.
And it could be a 10 hour or a 12 hour window. You do not need to be doing,
it doesn't have to be, I need 18.6, yeah.
I always love to share the little anecdote about the study where the 18.6 came from. It was just because it was the schedule that the researchers were working.
Had nothing to do with the optimal biological pattern.
There's no magic to 18.6. It was when they were in the lab.
Think about that, guys.
Think like a 9 to 5.
The
right?
18.6 was just what the study was designed. There was no biological criteria or mechanism that makes 18.6 better than 17.8 or 17.7 or 10, 12, 14, whatever it may be, right? There's nothing. So. Okay.
And if you are strength training for seeking benefits of muscle gain, it's very important to not be fasting
all the time,
and particularly not pre and post workout.
Right.
So while the anabolic window is 24 to 48, even 72 hours, it would behoove you to not be fasted for 8 hours, train, and then be fasted for another 8 hours. Or 24, God forbid. Like, good luck getting the benefits of that strength training session. And good luck recovering from that strength training session.
There's a whole nother aspect, right? Yes. Okay. We got one comment on your side, on the Instagram side.
Another question.
Nope.
All right. So Dom Tolbert, so you're talking about not eating red meat. I was pescatarian for 7 years, so I can attest to cutting out red meat. But what about seafood?
So we're not talking about not eating red meat. We're saying that red meat should be, I think, red meat should be the basis, and then other things need to be added to that. So the way I look at it is red meat, eggs, and seafood should be a combination in variety most of the time.
Same.
That's kind of how I look at it. So seafood, fantastic, but I would base my nutrition on red meat and then add seafood in. That's kind of how I do it.
I think a wide variety. I mean, pork, I don't do pork very often,
But it's good
but
sometimes.
throw in some pork. Pork has a different micronutrient profile as well. So all these different meats, they have
Crab legs.
different micronutrient profiles. Eggs, egg yolks, wildly important. It's one of the best sources of choline. So,
Butyrate.
I would say too,
Butter.
for those interested in the micronutrition, like do a little research, just Google what's in,
All the different things.
the different foods.
And actually, if you get
Marty Kendall.
Yes. So there's two things I would recommend. One, go check out for anybody that's really, if you really want to nerd out on micronutrition, go check out Marty Kendall's stuff at Nutrient Optimizer. I think, is it .org or .com? I don't remember. Just look up Marty Kendall Nutrient Optimizer.
Optimizer with an S. It's the UK spelling.
Yeah. He has done years of data gathering and research and analysis, and he's got the best breakdown of all the micronutrition stuff that exists. I don't know if there's anything better.
Yeah.
And then also, just for general information, if you get Craig and Maria Emmerich's Keto, the book, they have a whole section on micronutrition in food. They got a whole chapter. So I highly recommend getting that as well. Okay. So one last, did you read that one?
I read that
No.
one.
Okay, that's it. All right, so we got to pick somebody. Who are we picking? Deb had a good question. Dom had a good question over there. Carl Keto Dog. Are you guys still on? I hope you're still on.
Natalie had the question about the micronutrition.
Micronutrition. So we got to figure out.
All right, so
We need an app or something to help just randomly.
the random selection.
Yeah.
All right, so who's on the running?
Yeah,
And then y'all, okay, Carl's still here.
Carl's still here.
Karen.
Karen. Karen's still here. Carl's still here. I don't know if Natalie's here. Danny had asked something. And then Dom on that side. Let's do Dom on this side because he's the only person on the Instagram that asked a question.
Ooh, there's a little twist.
Ha-ha.
All the people on YouTube are so mad at you right now.
Sorry, guys. We got to cover both platforms.
Oops, what am I doing?
So Dom, if he's still listening. If he doesn't, then we'll pull it back up.
Dom, let us know if you're still on.
Hopefully Dom's still on. He just asked that question it wasn't too long ago, I hope.
It was recent, so hopefully he's still here.
Danny's asking another question. What speaker or presentation do you enjoy on the cruise?
Oh boy, ours was the best.
That's awesome. I got to be honest with you, though.
We got such good feedback. Y'all.
Everybody gave us feedback that was positive.
It was recorded.
Absolutely.
So I cannot wait to share it with y'all. We kicked it off. And of course, as we do, we did the tough love. We did the think about it. We made you think.
Yep.
We talked a lot about mindset and we set the tone for the
cruise. Hopefully it helped, because the thing about the cruise, as with any conference, is one person gets up on stage and says this, another person gets on stage and says this, and they're completely opposite of each other, right? So being able to kind of say, hey, what applies to me, what do I need to take, and what can I leave behind, is a really important skill for anybody that's going to these conferences to get information. So,
Evelyn said she liked the panel with us and Jennifer.
Oh yeah,
that was good.
That was good. I enjoyed that.
We got good questions.
We got good questions.
Yeah.
So awesome, guys. Thank you very much for being on. Hopefully Dom is around to get that message so we can get his information, and we will see you next week. Next week, we're talking about cutting on carnivore. It's going to be great. See ya.
Bye.